I got a feeling this is going to be a fireworks fight because both are coming off a loss, and Rozenstruik was judged quite heavily for losing to Cyril Gane,
Yes.
and Augusto Sakai. Who did he lose to? Anyway, but I know that both of them are coming off a loss, and they both need to get a win, especially for Rozenstruik, considering he's had some pretty horrific knockouts. You know, he lost to Francis Ngannou.
Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane, Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, and that was brutal as well. So, and Augusto Sakai, he's 9th. Rozenstruik, he's 6th. So, there's definitely a bit of a gap between the two of them. So, I'm quite excited to see how this plays out. But then again, a lot of people were judging Rozenstruik in his last fight, saying he was very gun shy. Yes. I wonder how that's going to turn around.
Definitely an interesting fight. You know, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, prior to, fighting Francis Ngannou, he was definitely not a gun shy opponent, especially not with his mouth either, because he was calling for Francis Ngannou. Nobody calls for Francis Ngannou. No one calls for Francis Ngannou. And he said, there's this big scary guy, Francis Ngannou, I want to fight him. And that's what he did, except Ngannou knocked him out very, very quickly. Flatlined him within the first 10, 15 seconds of the first round. Then bouncing back from that pretty horrific loss, fought against Cyril Gane. And, arguably, the fans argue it wasn't a very interesting fight. I felt it was a very interesting fight. However, it wasn't exactly what we expected. We expected a little bit more give and take from them, and they both seemed to be very calculated and calm, especially Cyril Gane, and he was just picking apart, whereas Rozenstruik looked a bit slower, he looked a bit fatigued, and he also looked just a bit fearful of getting in the, often they really try and avoid, really embarrassing moments, especially when they've just had a very significant loss in the UFC. So it was a bit weird to see his performance with Cyril Gane. Now he's bouncing back very quickly again to fight Augusto Sakai, who's currently number 9 in the rankings. So it is a very interesting fight. Augusto Sakai, interesting fighter himself. I'm not too sure who I actually take in this fight, to be honest.
I think
I'm
going to go with Augusto Sakai.
I would like to look at the odds, actually. I want to look at the odds first, because that's always a very interesting tail sign on who is expected to win. And then there are some times where we agree with them and sometimes we don't. Mm-hmm. However, I always like to look at the rankings. I feel like Rozenstruik definitely can bounce back very quickly. Before he fought Francis Ngannou, very confident, never lost ever. Yeah. Even outside of the UFC, right? Loses to Francis Ngannou. Huge, KO that would definitely impact your ego, and the ego for fighters is huge, right? Mm-hmm. Especially that mental preparation. Then lost to Cyril Gane, looked a little bit gun shy, similar to how Francis Ngannou fought Derek Lewis after getting dominated badly against Stipe Miocic. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Rozenstruik was expected to win this fight, since he has a good track record. If I look at the fight odds,
they're very evenly matched. They both have. Rozenstruik is 11-2-0, and Augusto Sakai is 15-2-1.
Yes, Rozenstruik is a minus 138 favorite. Wow. Augusto Sakai is a plus 110 underdog.
That's quite even matched.
Very evenly matched. They're obviously very similar size, I believe. 6'2" is Rozenstruik. 6'4" is Augusto Sakai, so he's got a little bit of a height and reach advantage. Actually, no, Rozenstruik has a 1-inch reach advantage. Okay. Sakai has a 2-inch height advantage. Sakai came from Bellator, then moved over to the UFC. Once he joined the UFC, looked very, very good until he lost against Alistair Overeem, unfortunately. Got knocked out in back of 2020, I think it was around September.
September 2020. That's when he got knocked out.
Yeah, so look, outside of that, he's had a very, very good track record, having a loss in Bellator against Dan Charles, and you'll remember his fight against Czech Congo in Bellator, who's a big power puncher himself, and that was a split decision. Following his loss to Bellator, he went to Immortal, then he went on Dana White's Contender Series, won that, and then was undefeated in the UFC until he lost to Alistair Overeem.
Yeah.
So he's got a proven track record.
Andrei
Arlovsky he's beaten, Marcin Tybura, Blagoy Ivanov as well.
Yeah. Considering his losses to Alistair Overeem, who's pretty much a legend of the sport, we talked about so many times, and he's just unbelievable striking. He was probably one of the most skilled fighters. A loss to Alistair Overeem really isn't that much, considering he went nearly 5 full rounds with him.
Yeah.
He just lost in the final 30 seconds of the last round. So that's why my money's on Sakai.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about Sakai is he's very, it seems reminiscent of, what do you call it? A fellow Japanese-Brazilian fighter. I'm forgetting his name. Lyoto Machida.
Yes.
So Lyoto Machida, being a Japanese-Brazilian fighter, had a nice background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, however, was good on the feet, knocking out a lot of people with very significant strikes. Now, the same thing occurs with Augusto Sakai, being a Japanese-Brazilian fighter, born in Brazil, good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and as well as very good on the feet. So, look, it's a very interesting fight. I can understand why it's so easily contested, since Rozenstruik has a proven kickboxing record, and was previously undefeated in the UFC before he, lost to Francis Ngannou. I think it could be a little bit too quick a turnaround for Rozenstruik. I think it wasn't too long ago that he lost to Cyril Gane in February 2021, so almost in March. So that was about 2 months ago. And now he's fighting again against Augusto Sakai, who's in the top 10. That's a really quick turnaround. I'm not too sure if that's the correct decision. I know Sakai did get knocked out by Alistair Overeem.
But that was September last year. So
September last year. He's had a little bit of time to have a little bit of time off. I would also put my money on Augusto Sakai. And I would say it's very interesting. Do you think it can go to a decision?
Yes.
Yeah, you think so?
I reckon. Because if we don't get, I reckon, because here's why. Augusto Sakai lost to Alistair Overeem in the 5th round. And Rozenstruik, he got knocked down in the 1st round. So I got a feeling both men are going to try and put each other away in those first couple of rounds. If that doesn't work, they're going to pretty much gas out quite easily, like they would, like heavyweights do. And then I got a feeling it will go to a decision. I reckon it will probably be a split decision to Augusto Sakai, because I just feel like it's going to be very, very close.
Look at that. That could be something as well. However, with Augusto Sakai, probability wise, it probably won't. In terms of probability, it probably won't go to decision, because in the UFC, out of all of Augusto Sakai's fights, he's only went to the decision once, and with Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he's only went to decision once as well, which was his last fight against who am I thinking? Cyril Gane. So probability wise, I don't think it will go to the decision. I think it will go by knockout.
Yeah.
I think it's knockout by Augusto Sakai. I think it's too quick a turnaround for Rozenstruik. I think Sakai is very good on the feet. I think he's got the power. He's got a good track record. I know Rozenstruik's very good on the feet as well, proving kickboxing record. It's going to be a close fight, but because it's so close, I think it could produce a knockout, because they're going to be trading back and forth. And I think they'll start to get in really furious exchanges, because there's a little bit of fire lit under Rozenstruik's ass. If he gets a 3rd loss, that's a big question mark on him. So I'm going to go for Augusto Sakai. Augusto Sakai winning by TKO in the 2nd round.
Okay. Second round really is deadly, eh?
Yes. Second round is deadly.